All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really important new report from MIT that's uncovered a massive disconnect in the world of AI. It's something they're calling the Great GenAI Divide. And trust me, it affects pretty much every business trying to get a handle on this technology.
Okay, let's just start with a number that, honestly, it should stop you in your tracks. 95%. Even with all the billions being poured into enterprise generative AI, that's the percentage of companies getting zero, and I mean absolutely zero, measurable financial return on their investments. And look, we're not talking about a small gap here. This is a chasm. It's the huge, gaping difference between all the hype you see online and what's actually happening to a company's bottom line. On one side, you've got this tiny group of companies unlocking millions in value. And on the other side, you've got pretty much everyone else.
So that's the big question, right? Why is this happening? And maybe more importantly, how do you make sure your company lands on the right side of this thing? We're about to get into the playbook for joining that top 5%, pulled directly from the research. All right, let's get into it. First up, we really need to wrap our heads around just how big this problem is, because what we're seeing is tons of adoption of AI tools, but almost zero real business transformation. What's really interesting here is why this divide exists. The report is super clear on this. It's not a technology problem, it's a strategy problem. The whole thing comes down to the approach you take. And here you can see that chasm in action. Just look at that drop-off. I mean, the general easy-to-use tools, sure, they get some use. But the serious, enterprise-level stuff, it just dies on the vine. Only 5% actually make it into production. That's the divide right there. This quote from a COO in the report, wow, it just says it all, doesn't it? The hype on LinkedIn says everything has changed, but in our operations, nothing fundamental has shifted. That's the feeling. You see the buzz, but the day-to-day business is exactly the same. Okay, so if the tech isn't the problem, what is? Why are so many of these big, expensive AI projects just failing? Well, the research points to three huge strategic mistakes. First up, there's this huge disconnect between the official company plan and what people are actually doing. Get this, a whopping 90% of employees are already using their personal AI tools for work. The report calls it a shadow AI economy. But only 40% of companies even have official subscriptions. So AI is already changing things, just completely off the books. And this creates a really big problem, a paradox really. Your employees are using these consumer tools that they love, right? They're fast, they're smart, they're easy, and that makes them totally impatient with the clunky official systems the company rolls out, systems that can't remember who they are or learn from what they do. That gap in user expectation is a project killer. And the last big reason, companies are just putting their money in the wrong places. They're throwing something like 70% of their AI budget at the flashy front office stuff, like sales and marketing. But the report found the biggest bang for your buck, the real ROI, is hidden away in the less sexy back office stuff. Operations, finance, you name it. Okay, so we know what the 95% are doing wrong. So what are the 5% doing right? Well, it turns out they're playing a completely different game. The playbook for these top performers comes down to three really clear and honestly kind of counterintuitive rules. 1, buy, don't build. 2, demand what actually matters. And 3, go find that hidden ROI in the back office. And on that first point, the data is just crystal clear. Companies that partner up with specialized vendors are literally twice as likely to succeed with AI as the ones trying to build it all themselves. That whole we'll build it in-house stream, it just doesn't work out most of the time. And when these successful companies do buy, they think about it differently. They're not just buying a piece of software with a list of features. Nope, they're buying a business outcome. They demand things like trust, real integration into how they already work, and, this is key, a system that can actually learn and get better over time. They're holding their partners accountable for results, not just for shipping code. And they're finding the real money in places most people aren't even looking. You can forget the flashy sales demos. The real hard dollar savings are coming from replacing super expensive external contracts. We're talking about getting rid of BPO spending for customer service, slashing agency fees for creating content, and using AI to bring outsourced risk management back in-house. So all of this brings us to the final point, and maybe the most urgent one in the whole report. The competitive map for entire industries is being redrawn, like right now. And the window to make your move, it's closing fast. The procurement execs they talk to see a really clear timeline here. They're saying there's basically an 18-month window before the winners lock in their AI partners for good. Because once a company's unique data starts training a learning system, it creates what they call a data moat. It's this compounding advantage that becomes so powerful that laggards will find it almost impossible and definitely too expensive to ever catch up. And the future that these leaders are building, the report has a name for it: the agentic web. This is a huge shift. Think about it. We're moving away from a world where we have to tell our tools what to do to a future where autonomous AI agents can find each other, negotiate, and coordinate on their own. It's about replacing our static apps with this dynamic, intelligent layer that just runs everything. So it really all boils down to this single question. The choices you're making today, right now, are going to decide where you stand for the next decade. That choice to buy instead of build, to insist on systems that learn, and to empower your back office, these are the decisions that will determine if your organization crosses the GenAI divide or if you get left behind on the wrong side of it.